Sometimes, just when you think a story has settled, that the scariest chapter is over and everything after is soft edges and sweet moments. Life throws you a curve that doesn't make sense at first, something so unexpected and jarring that it shakes even the strongest bonds, tests even the purest love, and brings forward questions you never thought you'd have to answer. And for Kyle, Jessica, Noah, and Max, that moment came on a cold morning in February, the kind where frost creeps up the windows and the city skyline looks gray and sharp. Against a pale sky and inside apartment 3002, everything felt just slightly off. Like a song played one note out of tune, the kind of off you don't notice until it becomes too loud to ignore. Max hadn't eaten dinner the night before, unusual, but not alarming, and in the early morning, Kyle found him lying beside Noah's crib, not asleep, but still, his breathing shallow, his eyes open but glazed. And when Kyle knelt down and whispered Max's name, there was no tail wag, no stretch, just a slow blink. And Kyle's chest tightened instantly, his fingers already dialing the vet before he even stood up. Jessica rushed to get Noah dressed, her hands shaking as she packed Max's leash, even though they wouldn't need it, because Max couldn't walk on his own. They carried him out, wrapped in Noah's baby blanket, and the cab ride to the emergency. Vet was silent except for the soft hum of Noah humming to himself in the back seat, clutching Max's favorite rubber bone. Unaware of the tension hanging in the air like thunder before a storm, the vet clinic was quiet, sterile, the lights too bright, and the air too cold. And when the technician took Max into the back without letting them follow, Jessica broke down, covering her face with her hands, and Kyle held her while staring blankly at the wall, his mind flipping through every moment since the rooftop. Had Max been acting tired? Was there something they missed? And just as the guilt began to spiral, the door opened, and the vet, a kind-faced woman with graying hair and soft eyes, entered the room and knelt beside Noah, who toddled toward her holding Max's toy. "Aye." She placed a hand on the baby's shoulder, then looked at Kyle and Jessica and said, "He's stable, but we found a mass. We're running more tests, but we're concerned it might be cancer." The word hit like a truck, not yelled, not dramatic, just quietly devastating. It's like someone pulling a rug out from under your heart. Jessica gasped, Kyle's fists clenched, and Noah, sensing something was wrong, walked to Kyle and crawled into his lap, holding up the bone as if offering it back to Max through the door. The next few hours blurred, blood work, scans, waiting, more waiting, and when the final results came back, the vet confirmed it. Hemangiosarcoma, an aggressive cancer that hides until it doesn't, and by the time you know it's there, it's often too late. But, she added gently, Max's case was caught early, and with immediate surgery and follow-up treatment, they could try, not promise, but try. The word try became their anchor, not hope, not survive, but try. And sometimes that's all you need to hold on. Max went into surgery that same evening, and Kyle sat outside the operating room holding Noah on his chest, while Jessica paced the hallway like a mother in labor, whispering prayers to a God she hadn't spoken to since childhood. Not for miracles, just for one more year, maybe two, maybe enough for Noah to remember him when he grows up. The surgery lasted for hours. The vet finally came out. Mask pulled down, eyes tired but smiling, Jessica collapsed into Kyle's arms, and Noah clapped his hands softly, thinking the nurse was playing a game. Max survived. They removed the mass. There were no signs of internal bleeding. The vet said it was the fastest recovery she'd seen in years. The news was good, but their lives changed. Max was now a senior dog with a fragile future, and they decided, without even speaking it aloud, to dedicate every remaining day to him like it was his last. They canceled trips. They moved Noah's crib next to the living room so Max could be close. They cooked Max's meals from scratch, boiled chicken, rice, pumpkin, and Noah insisted on feeding him. Even when his little fingers made a mess, they took slow walks in the park, Kyle carrying Max when his legs got tired, Noah in a backpack harness pointing at trees and dogs and people who smiled and waved without knowing the full story. Every moment became sacred. Every breath, every blink, every snore Max made while napping at Noah's feet. But the most remarkable thing, the part no one could explain, was what happened the first night Max returned home after surgery. He was groggy, weak, lying on the living room rug under a blanket, his head barely lifting when Noah approached. But the baby knelt beside him, placed one hand on Max's paw, and whispered a series of sounds that didn't make sense to any adult. In the room, just soft syllables, like ma. Doo-doo-la-lama, repeated gently, rhythmically, like a lullaby without a tune. And Max, who hadn't moved in hours, slowly turned his head, placed it on Noah's leg, and closed his eyes. From that night onward, it became their ritual. Noah would whisper to Max before bed, and Max, no matter how tired, would wag his tail once. Every time as if to say, "I'm still here." The family began documenting these moments, not for the internet, but for themselves. Filming short clips of Max and Noah's bedtime whispers, slow park walks, quiet mornings curled on the floor together. And one evening, after Noah had fallen, asleep mid-whisper and Max rested his head on the crib, Kyle uploaded one of those videos with a simple caption, "He's fighting, and he's loved." Didn't expect much, maybe a few likes from friends. But by morning, the video had over 2 million views. People from around the world, Brazil, Japan, Australia, Canada, were sending messages, donations to cover Max's medication, fan art, and most touching of all, voice memos of children whispering to their own dogs, inspired by Noah. A vet from Sweden offered to consult on Max's treatment plan. A dog rescue in Ohio started a fundraiser called Whispers for Max, encouraging people to adopt senior dogs. One mother wrote, "My son is autistic and doesn't speak. But after watching Noah whisper to Max, he crawled onto our dog's bed and tried it. That was the first time I saw him initiate contact. Thank you for showing us what love can do." Kyle and Jessica were overwhelmed, grateful, but careful. Always remembering that behind the views and headlines was a real dog, a real boy, and a bond they never wanted to turn into a brand. They said yes when a children's book author asked to collaborate, creating a picture book called Noah and Max Hold On, with all profits donated to senior dog rescues. And when a filmmaker offered to do a short documentary, they agreed only if it stayed honest, quiet, and real. If you've made it through this far, thank you. Thank you for holding space for this story, for Max, for Noah, for every dog. Who's ever pulled us back from the edge, and every child who reminded us what purity looks like. I want to know something before we continue to the final part. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Tell me in the comments, and if your dog is with you, give them a gentle pat from Max. Because what happens in part 5, the way this story ends, it's something none of us could have seen coming. And it just might be the most powerful part yet.